Mario, probably one of the most famous video game characters of all time. A hero, a not plumber, and a mascot of one of the most loved and hated game companies in modern history, Nintendo. Whenever a new Mario game gets announced, everyone rejoices. Communities come together, YouTube creators go haywire, and game journalists start throwing out 9s and 10s all over the place. But what is it about Mario that really gets your tallywhacking, if you know what I mean? Hello, I'm Maikeru, and this is the Death Mountaineers YouTube channel. That's a Zelda reference, but today we're talking about this guy. Sure, Mario's a hero, sure he's the star of some of the best games out there, but if you take a second to think about him, to look at him, what is it about this chubby little not plumber that is so endearing? So with those questions reverberating in your prefrontal cortex, I ask you to open your minds and open your ears for a dose of reality and join me as we tear down this star-collecting starboy off his silly star pedestal, stars, and find out why we've been fooled into falling in love with a boring, out-of-shape, mustachioed short dude at risk of adult-onset diabetes. He's Mario, and I bet you think you like him a lot, but you probably don't. Now, before you start trying to dox me, let me give you a little bit of a disclaimer. I love Mario. Games. Seriously, Super Mario World is the first game I remember playing, and to this day I go back to it constantly. Mario 64 was my first intro into a 3D game space, which just completely blew my mind out my ass. Mario Sunshine is one of the most enjoyable in-game worlds I've had the pleasure to experience, and playing Mario Galaxy left me with some truly excellent memories of a long-lost friend. I had the Mario All-Stars pack on the SNES since before I can remember. I'm a real fan of Mario. Games. Paper Mario, Mario 3D Land, the Mario and Luigi games for the DS, and the new Super Mario Bros. Series are some of my favorites, and Odyssey. Odyssey is so good. But Mario isn't just the star of his own series, no. This supposed early 20s millennial, yeah, fucking right, Nintendo, is plastered all over every spin-off, collection, racing, sports, Olympic-themed awful shit, and Smash game in Nintendo's library. However, I don't play as Mario in any of those games. Sure, I have, I bet you have too, but generally I choose not to because I have a choice in those situations. But why do I choose not to use this beloved character when given the option to use some derpy Dan like Captain Falcon instead? It's because Mario is boring. That's right, I said it, homeboy has no style. He has nothing special about him at all. He's vanilla ice cream. Sure, if you want ice cream, you'll eat vanilla. Most people like vanilla just fine, and obviously there are people whose favorite flavor is vanilla, but we'll get to that later. Regardless, if you can add a little something something to that ice cream, you probably will given the opportunity. But you can also do a lot with vanilla, which is a base flavor. Know what I'm saying? Cookie cutter characters fit nicely into other roles. Look at Barbie. Her and Mario actually share a lot in common. No personality and about 18 million professions. Even as a kid, I didn't want to use Mario. I liked Luigi. There's a mystery to Luigi, even back when there was no story to speak of in the games. Who was he? Why was he delegated to player 2? Why is he taller? And why did he wear green? There were questions, but Mario was default. You could replace him with a smile emoji and get the same effect. Now you might be thinking, well, every game has a default character, do we just not like default characters? And to that I would reply, okay! Now Donkey may not be my first Kong pick, but he has a personality that stretches past, he has a personal motivation to obtain his goals rather than rescue the princess. Honestly, I don't even think Mario dislikes Bowser. I just think that the Koopa King is in the way of Mario's only goal in life, which is keep Peach in the castle. Game theory, is Mario a meninist? Hell, maybe Peach likes getting kidnapped. Game theory, is Mario a kink shamer? Anyway, when you can get me more invested in the personality of a character like Toad, there's a disconnect somewhere, and that is somewhat of a problem. But let's be fair and look at the creation of our character, more importantly, the time he was created in. In the early years of video games, the concept of a story was pretty much non-existent. Developers created a character to go through the motions to be controlled. They were there as an avatar to get you from point A to point B. Mario was no different other than the fact that the games he was in were actually good. They're still good today. Inherently, nothing is wrong with the first Super Mario Bros. Games, at least nothing glaring that comes to mind. In fact, that goes for most of his titles, barring things like Hotel Mario or Fun with Numbers, which I played a lot. But Mario has nothing to him as a character, so what's the appeal? Before you start hammering those keys trying to tell me that he's a blank character for the player to put themselves into, he's not. See, Link, that's what Link is, or Robin from Fire Emblem Awakening, for example. They're blank characters deliberately designed for the player to become invested in by investing themselves in those hollow shells. They were conceived that way on purpose, and it's obvious. But Mario, well, Mario is just Mario. He has a personality and a voice and a name, which is always Mario, even in his RPGs. But I'd still rather use a blank character like Link or Robin over him in, say, Smash 4. However, there is a bit of a dichotomy in my feelings for this guy. Maybe you feel the same way, but when I see Mario, I get happy. I like to see new Mario games coming out. I get super excited for Mario Karts, Smash Brothers, and even Mario Golf. I have no bad feelings towards the guy at all. Why is it that I refuse to play as him if I have the option not to? So let's look at his character design within video games that he appears in to see if we can find the answer. First, Mario Kart. Okay, he's got even stats. Mario Golf, even stats. Mario Tennis, even stats. Okay, he's not even particularly good at anything. Mario is so neutral, he might as well not exist. He's like that friend you have that always answers, I don't know, when you ask a question. There's just nothing there. Pizza or Chinese, it's not that hard to have an opinion. Even Mario's younger brother is a better jumper than he is. Toad is faster, and Peach, well, I mean, Peach can float, so... How did Nintendo do this? How did they manage to create a character that's about as thin as your dad's hair and turn him into a household name before 1990 rolled around? Maybe we have to take a look at other mascots to figure this out. Who better to turn to than Sonic? When I was a kid, the blue blur was Mario's biggest competitor, and Sonic has tons of personality. He's a hedgehog, which is cool, I guess. He's fast, and he has a big old attitude, which made him appeal to all those early 90s edgelords with their Spawn action figures and shit. Sonic was successful and still is to this day, even though at least 60% of his games are borderline unplayable. However, when we see Sonic, a lot of us think the mascot of Sega, but a lot of people don't. They just see Sonic, mascot of the Sonic series. But when anyone sees Mario, the first thing they think of is Nintendo, and people really like Nintendo. Come to think of it, Mario and the Nintendo logo even have the same general color palette, and how often is the picture of this guy plastered right next to the word Nintendo? Makes sense for a mascot, but maybe there's more to it than that. Let's think about the announcement for the Tokyo Olympic Games for 2020. If you haven't seen it, Mario runs around Tokyo and then takes a warp pipe to Brazil. Then the Prime Minister of Japan pops out of the warp pipe dressed like Mario. It didn't say Nintendo anywhere, but we were all thinking, oh, awesome, Nintendo's on the Olympics. Designing a character to be that synonymous with a company is a pretty smart thing to do, but I suppose you would have to be pretty careful in doing that. The character can't have too much personality or your company will have too much personality. Sonic made Sega look super edgy, which helped in getting the ESRB created after mommies all over the US got triggered by Sega games. But Nintendo likes to walk a straight line. They like to be accessible to everyone at all times at any age. Unlike the rest of their competitors who tried to either be zany or too cool, Nintendo stuck with Vanilla Boy Mario and it worked. See, you can't always be so in your face to have total mass market appeal. Sometimes you have to dial it back and simply be friendly. Really, the only major court cases Nintendo has ever dealt with have been from other companies and competitors trying to get a slice of Nintendo's giant cake, or game developers raging about Nintendo's awful business practices. But parents like Nintendo, grandparents like Nintendo, little kids, boys, and girls all like Nintendo. What they did really worked out in the end, and they're still killing it. Because of this mostly universal appeal, nostalgia overload, and friendly branding, when we see Mario, we don't see a character, we see a brand. A damn good brand. And one that's been with us since we were kids. One that's put out some of the finest games and gaming consoles since the Atari almost killed the video game industry. In America, yes, British people, we know the ZX Spectrum was doing just fine in the UK. Thank you. Speaking of America, Nintendo and Mario have even helped bridge the gap of two cultures that are incredibly different. When I was a kid, liking Japanese art or entertainment was still looked down upon. Kids would alienate you if you tried bringing up something like Fist of the North Star or Sailor Moon. But Nintendo brought with it things like Pokemon, which completely bridged a culture gap, thanks to Nintendo doing all they could to establish themselves in the States with Nintendo of America, and once Mario and Nintendo were fully planted into American society, people really started to allow themselves to branch out into more Japanese titles, like Fire Emblem, for example. But really, when you see Mario, you're not seeing a plumber because they retcon that, or a good jumper, or even a princess saver, or even just any brand. You're seeing Nintendo. Hell, they could have just called him Nintendo Man, honestly. When it comes to his games, even the newest ones like Mario Odyssey, the story is just the icing. What you're getting, most of the time, is Nintendo's finest work. Games that they put their all into to give the player the best experience that they can. Mario games are really good, really simple, simple and exists solely to be fun and to innovate within the medium. Whenever you see Mario's face on anything, you can expect it to be fully polished in an enjoyable game, unless it's Mario Tennis on the Wii U. But I tell you what, I really don't like golf, but Mario Golf is a great time, and I really don't like tennis, but Mario Tennis for the Game Boy Color is fantastic. Mario himself is a bland, boring, simple character. He doesn't talk a lot, he's not really good at anything besides jumping. He never gets laid, and his younger brother is way cooler than he is, and taller. Even his worst enemies are more entertaining and brimming with personality. But because of what he represents, he is special, and solely unique. He's a relic from the console wars, a time where virtually every game company was trying to create a mascot to compete, but they were competing with Mario, because he simply worked perfectly. The only one that came close to surpassing him is Sonic, but in the end, Sega went out of the console business, so Mario and Nintendo won. Because of his simple nature, Mario is able to be placed in any situation, in any profession, as a representation of his creators. Using Mario as a shield allows Nintendo to brand themselves in their best titles. It's not Super Mario World, it's Super Nintendo World. It's not Mario Kart, it's Nintendo Racing. But using Mario's name hides that and makes it significantly less cringy, unlike Sega All-Stars Racing. The company knows this, and it's why they filled the Mushroom Kingdom with excellent side characters and an awesome atmosphere, in order to cover up how lame Mario is. It's why they pack their spin-offs full of well-designed characters like Link, Olimar, Fox McCloud, and Marth. So you don't like Mario. There's nothing to like unless you're really into red and blue outfits. You like Nintendo, and I like Nintendo, and that's okay. But Mario is super lame, and that's also okay. Because of Mario's success, we have hundreds of other amazing characters to pick from and play, and more importantly for me, to talk about. So who's your favorite Nintendo characters? How are you liking Mario Odyssey? I know it's a contender for my game of the year, so let me know in the comments below, and if you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe. While you're at it, you should go check out my Pokemon Mythos Busters series. We have some new ones coming your way soon, and it's gonna be awesome, so stay tuned. And if you're a returning viewer, maybe check out my Patreon. For $1 a month, you can help me continue to do what I love to do, which is this. I really like making videos and hanging out with you guys, so help me out if you have the means. And also, follow us on social media, specifically Twitter for news, updates, and some dank memes. My name is Maikeru, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.